When you sit down to watch a movie, you are looking at an illusion. The seamless story playing out on screen is actually a patchwork, stitched together from thousands of separate video clips. That stitch is called a cut, and it serves as a psychological safety net. It allows directors to skip over the travel time between locations, and it gives your brain a microsecond to breathe during a high-tension scene. So what happens to human psychology when a director intentionally removes that safety net and the camera refuses to blink? Without the cut, the screen functions differently. It begins to feel less like a window and more like a continuous space that moves at the exact same speed as the characters. Filmmakers call this a one-shot. While a standard long take might let a single scene play out for a few minutes without cutting, a one-shot stretches that unbroken rule across an entire feature-length movie. This diagram breaks down the two ways to achieve this. The top line represents a true one-shot, a single, uninterrupted recording, where a tripped wire in hour 2 means scrapping everything and starting over. The bottom line shows a simulated one-shot, which uses clever editing to smoothly merge multiple separate takes into a single visual line. The ultimate modern case study of this simulated approach is the 2019 war epic 1917. Director Sam Mendes designed the film to look like 2 flawless, continuous hours of World War I combat. A production team takes on this logistical nightmare because an unbroken perspective forces the audience into a relentless, inescapable emotional state. To understand how directors hide their cuts today, we have to look back to 1948, when the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, pioneered the simulated one-shot with his thriller, Rope. Back then, filmmakers faced a hard physical limit. Analog cameras could only hold exactly 10 minutes of film on a single reel, making a 90-minute take physically impossible. Hitchcock found a clever workaround. As the 10-minute mark approached, he would push the camera directly into the dark fabric of an actor's jacket. The screen would go pitch black, giving the crew time to cut the camera, swap the reel, and start rolling again as the camera pulled back. By hiding his cuts in the dark, Hitchcock proved that continuous storytelling builds suspense more effectively than rapid editing. He turned a hardware flaw into a psychological tool. Since 1948, filmmakers have refined these methods, combining digital effects with theater tricks to keep the camera rolling without the audience noticing a single seam. This overhead view demonstrates the foreground wipe. The camera tracks an actor right up until a thick object, like a pillar or a passing bus, crosses the lens. For that split second, the line of sight is blocked, and the editor hides the cut right there. In the same diagram, we see the whip pan. If you spin a camera fast enough, the image blurs into motion lines. Filmmakers use the chaos of that blurry transition to stitch 2 entirely different locations together. By the time production began on 1917, hiding the cut required extreme physical logistics. The crew rehearsed the actor's dialogue first, mapped out the exact number of footsteps needed, and then dug the trenches to match the length of the lines. The environmental conditions were just as demanding. Because a single continuous scene could take days to film, the crew could only shoot on heavily overcast days to guarantee the lighting matched perfectly across every take. The illusion of unbroken reality demands absolute environmental control. The production effectively turned a chaotic battlefield into a highly synchronized machine. A moving camera alone does not make a good movie. In film theory, an effective unbroken shot relies on 3 specific rules. First is setting. The camera must have physical space to explore, like long trenches or open fields. Second is character. The actors dictate where the lens goes, not the other way around. The final rule is plot. The story itself must require an unbroken perspective to function. If these 3 elements do not align, a long take becomes a distracting gimmick. But when they lock together, the unbroken shot becomes the ultimate storytelling device. If 1917 were a standard war movie, the editing would eventually grant us a moment of relief. We would watch a battle, and then the director would cut to a general sitting in a safe base camp miles away. Mendes used the simulated one-shot to strip away that relief. Because there are no visible cuts, the audience is dragged through the dirt alongside the troops, experiencing their panic and exhaustion in real time. The camera acts as a silent, invisible third soldier on the mission. It crawls through the mud, runs across the craters of no man's land, and ducks for cover from sniper fire beside the main characters. By locking the camera to the characters, this technique creates an unbroken connection between the viewer and the mission. Stripping away the safety of the cut forces the audience to stay in the trenches until the soldiers find their way out.